The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was called the Galactic Integration Academy. Young beings from many worlds came here to learn. They studied together. They ate together. They tried to understand each other. Yuna walked through the wide halls of the station. She was 19 years old. She came from a planet called Earth. Most species in the galaxy called it something else. They called it a death world. This name was not meant as a compliment. Yuna was short by human standards. She had long black hair that she kept in a simple ponytail. Her eyes were dark brown. Her skin was warm to the touch. Too warm, according to most other species. Everything about her was too much for them. Too hot, too fast, too strong, too dangerous. She walked past a group of Tellurian students. They were small creatures with thin limbs and large eyes. Their bodies were made for a gentle world with low gravity and calm weather. When they saw Yuna coming, they moved to the other side of the hall. One of them made a soft clicking sound of fear. Yuna pretended not to notice. She was used to this dot. She had been at the academy for 8 months now. In that time, she had learned many things. She learned that most species found humans terrifying. She learned that her normal walking speed was considered aggressive. She learned that her body temperature could burn some species if she touched them for too long. She learned that the simple act of eating meat in the cafeteria made others feel sick. But she also learned other things. She learned that not everyone was afraid of her. Some students were curious. Some were kind. A few even became her friends. Today had been a long day. Yuna had 3 classes. First was Galactic History. Then came Interspecies Communication. Finally, her favorite class, Xenobiology, the study of alien life. Yuna wanted to be a healer. She wanted to learn how to help other species. She wanted to prove that humans were not monsters. They were just different. They came from a hard world, but that did not make them evil. The evening lights of the station turned soft and dim. This meant the day cycle was ending. Yuna needed to return to her dormitory. She had homework to do. She had notes to review. She also had a small wound on her hand from a lab accident that morning. It was already healing. Humans healed fast. Another thing that made other species nervous thought she could take the main corridor to her room. It was well lit and full of other students. But it was also crowded. Other beings would see her and move away. They would whisper about the death world or walking among them. Yuna was tired of being stared at. Instead, she turned down a side corridor. It was a maintenance path. The lights were dim here. The walls were plain metal. Very few students used this route. Yuna had discovered it in her 2nd month at the academy. She liked the quiet. She liked being alone with her thoughts. She did not know that someone was watching her far across the station. In a docking bay reserved for private ships, 6 hunters gathered around the table. They were called the Veth. They came from a small moon with low gravity. Their bodies had 6 limbs and hard outer shells. Their eyes could see in darkness. Their claws could cut through metal. On their world, they were the top predators. They hunted for sport and for profit. They traveled across the galaxy, looking for rare and valuable prey. And nothing was more valuable than a specimen from a death world. Their leader was named Korvan. He was old for a Veth. His shell was scarred from many hunts. He had killed creatures from 100 worlds. He feared nothing. He pointed at a screen that showed Yuna walking through the maintenance corridor. She walks alone, he said. Every night. Same path. Same time. The other hunters clicked their claws in excitement. A human female, one of them said. Young and healthy. She will sell for a high price. Corvan nodded. The collectors pay well for Death World specimens. They put them in cages. They show them to crowds. They study them like animals. One hunter raised a concern. Humans are dangerous. I have heard stories. They do not die easily. Corvan made a rough sound that was his species' version of a laugh. Stories, he repeated. Yes, I have heard them too. Humans survive impossible things. Humans fight without stopping. Humans never give up. He leaned forward. But I have hunted humans before. Males. Bigger than this one. Stronger. They all fall in the end. They all break. He tapped the screen with one claw. This one is small. She is female. She is alone. She is far from her pack. This will be easy. The hunters prepared their equipment. They had shock lances that could paralyze most species. They had gravity nets that could trap even the strongest prey. They had sedatives designed for high-gravity beings. They thought they were ready. Corvan watched the screen one more time. The human girl walked slowly. She looked tired. She looked harmless. She looked like easy prey. Tonight, he said, after her evening class, we take her in the maintenance corridor. Quick and quiet. No witnesses. No problems, the hunters agreed. They checked their weapons. They reviewed their plan. They felt confident. They had done this many times before, but they did not understand what they were hunting. Yuna was not just a girl from Earth. She was the product of millions of years of evolution on a world that tried to kill everything. Her ancestors survived ice ages. They survived plagues. They survived predators with claws and teeth and poison. They survived each other. Her bones were dense and strong. Her muscles were built for endurance. Her reflexes were sharp and fast. Her body could heal from wounds that would kill other species. Her mind could stay calm when death was near. She looked small. She looked weak. She looked harmless, but she was a survivor. And survivors were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. That night, Yuna finished her last class. She packed her bag. She said goodbye to her instructor. She started walking toward the maintenance corridor. She did not know that 6 hunters were waiting for her in the darkness, but she would soon find out, and they would learn the truth about Deathworld females. The hard way. The maintenance corridor was quiet. The lights along the ceiling gave off a soft blue glow. Yuna walked at a steady pace. Her bag hung from one shoulder. Her footsteps made soft sounds against the metal floor. She was thinking about her xenobiology homework. The assignment was about cellular repair in different species. Humans, she had learned, healed faster than most beings in the galaxy. A cut that would take a Tellurian weeks to heal would close on a human in days. This was just one more thing that made her species unusual. She was also thinking about food. She had skipped dinner to study in the library. Her stomach was empty. She was hungry. This was not a good state for a human to be in. Hungry humans could be irritable. They could be unfocused. They could be dangerous. But Yuna did not think about danger. Not here. Not in the academy. This was a place of learning and peace. Nothing bad could happen here. Then the lights flickered. Yuna stopped walking. She looked up at the ceiling. The lights flickered again. Then they went dim. Not completely dark, but darker than before. A power problem, she thought. The station was old. These things happened. She started walking again. But now she was more alert. Her senses sharpened. This was not a conscious choice. It was instinct. Millions of years of evolution had taught her ancestors to notice small changes. A flickering light could mean nothing. Or it could mean everything. She heard a sound behind her. A soft clicking noise. Like claws on metal. Why Una did not turn around. She kept walking. But her heart beat a little faster. Her muscles tensed slightly. Her body was preparing for something. even if her mind did not yet understand what. Then she heard more sounds. Ahead of her, to the left, to the right. She was surrounded. Yuna stopped. She stood very still. She took a slow breath. She let it out slowly. They came out of the shadows. 6 of them. Large creatures with 6 limbs and hard shells. Their eyes reflected the dim light. Their claws made clicking sounds as they moved closer. Each one carried a weapon. Long metal rods that glowed at the tips. Shock lances. Yuna had never seen this species before, but she knew what they were. Hunters. Predators. They had come for her. The largest one stepped forward. He was old. His shell was covered in scars. He spoke, and a small device on his chest translated his words into a language Yuna could understand. Do not resist, he said. His voice was cold and confident. You will be sedated. You will be shipped. You will be sold. If you struggle, we will hurt you. Damaged goods still sell, just for a lower price. Yuna looked at him. Then she looked at the others. 6 hunters. Shock lances. Gravity nets hanging from their belts. They had come prepared. They had done this before, but something in her was not afraid. Something in her was very, very calm. She let her bag slip from her shoulder. It fell to the floor with a soft thud. You know what I am, she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. You know where I come from, The old hunter clicked his claws. A sound of amusement. Yes, you are from a death world. Soul 3. Earth. Your kind is rare and valuable. Collectors pay good money for specimens like you. Yuna nodded slowly. And you know what my world is like. You know what lives there. The hunter tilted his head. We know. Extreme temperatures. Violent weather. Toxic atmosphere. Dangerous predators. Your planet is trying to kill everything on it. And yet we survive, Yuna said. For millions of years. Generation after generation. We survive. There was a moment of silence. The other hunters shifted uncomfortably, but the old one did not move. I have hunted your kind before, he said. Males. Larger than you. Stronger. They all fell. They all broke. He stepped closer. You are small. You are female. You are alone. You are far from home. This will be easy. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something strange. She smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of something that had been underestimated too many times. It was the smile of a creature whose ancestors had fought their way to the top of a world that wanted them dead. You have hunted human males, she said slowly. Big ones. Strong ones. Yes, the hunter said. He sounded proud. Yuna shook her head. That was your first mistake. The hunter paused. What do you mean? On my world, Yuna said, the males fight with strength. They try to overpower their enemies. They charge forward. They take damage. They rely on their size. She rolled her shoulders. Something shifted in her posture. She no longer looked like a tired student. She looked like something else entirely. But the females, she continued, we are different. We are smaller. We cannot rely on strength alone. So we learned other things. We learned to be fast. We learned to be clever. We learned to strike first and strike hard. We learned to use everything around us as a weapon. She looked directly into the old hunter's eyes. You brought 6 hunters to capture 1 human male. That might be enough. She paused. But you only brought 6 to capture a Korean girl who missed dinner. That was your second mistake. The old hunter was silent for a moment. Then he made that rough laughing sound again. Brave words, he said. But words do not stop shock lances. Words do not break gravity nets. Words do not defeat 6 trained hunters. Yuna lowered her stance slightly. Her feet spread apart. Her knees bent. Her hands came up, open and ready. "You are right," she said. "Words do not defeat you." Then she smiled again. That cold, dangerous smile. "I will." The old hunter raised his shock lance. "Take her," he commanded. The hunters moved. They were fast. They were trained. They had done this many times before. But Yuna moved faster. She had been waiting for this moment. Waiting for them to commit to their attack. Waiting for them to show their intentions. Now they had. And now she would show them what a Deathworld female could really do. The first hunter rushed at her from the right. He was quick. His shock lance hummed with energy. He aimed for her center mass. A good target. A safe target. He expected her to block or dodge. She did neither. Instead, she stepped forward. Into the attack. Closer than he expected. Too close for his weapon to work properly. Her hand shot out. Not a punch. Something faster. Something sharper. The heel of her palm struck the center of his chest. Where his shell was thinnest. There was a cracking sound. The hunter fell. He did not get up. The other hunters froze for just 1 second. They had not expected this. They had expected a fight. They had expected struggle and pain and effort. They had not expected one of their own to fall in. Less than 2 seconds, Yuna did not give them time to recover. She was already moving toward the next one. Hunt had begun, but the prey was not what they thought, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The second hunter reacted faster than the first. He raised his shock lance and fired. A bolt of blue energy shot through the air. It moved fast, faster than most species could track. But Yuna was not most species. She twisted her body to the side. The bolt grazed her shoulder instead of hitting her chest. Pain exploded through her arm. Her muscles locked up for a brief moment. On any other species, this would have caused paralysis for hours. Yuna shook it off in 3 seconds. Her ancestors had survived lightning strikes. They had survived electric eels. They had survived power lines and faulty wiring and 1,000 other dangers. Her nervous system was built to recover from electrical shock. 3 seconds was all she needed. The hunter stared at her in disbelief. He had seen the bolt hit. He had seen her body jerk from the impact. She should be on the floor. She should be twitching and helpless. She was not. Yuna closed the distance between them before he could fire again. She grabbed the shock lance with both hands. Her grip was strong. Too strong. On Earth, humans had spent millions of years using tools. Their hands had evolved to grip and twist and crush. She pulled the weapon from his grasp. The motion was so fast that it threw him off balance. He stumbled forward. Yuna used his momentum against him. She swung the shock lance like a club. It connected with the side of his head. There was a dull cracking sound. He collapsed next to his fallen friend. 2 down. 4 to go. The old hunter screamed orders in his native language. The translator could not keep up, but his meaning was clear. Attack, all at once. Overwhelm her. The 4 remaining hunters moved together. They spread out to surround her. 2 in front, 2 behind. They activated their gravity nets. Thick cords of energy that could trap even the strongest prey. Yuna saw their plan. A gravity net would be bad. If they trapped her, it would be over. She needed to stay mobile. She needed to stay fast. She needed to finish this quickly. She made a decision. Instead of waiting for them to close in, she attacked. This was against every rule of common sense. 4 enemies. Multiple weapons. A smart person would defend and look for an opening. But Yuna was not fighting smart. She was fighting human. On Earth, there was a concept called aggression. When faced with overwhelming odds, some humans became more dangerous, not less. Their fear turned into anger. Their caution turned into violence. They stopped thinking about survival and started thinking about victory. This was what the hunters did not understand. They expected her to be scared. They expected her to run or hide or beg. She did none of those things. She ran straight at the two hunters in front of her. They were not ready for this. Their gravity nets needed time to charge. Their shock lances needed space to aim. She gave them neither. She dove low. Under their weapons. Between their legs. Her small size was an advantage now. She rolled across the floor and came up behind them. Before they could turn around, she struck. Her elbow slammed into the back of one hunter's leg. The joint bent the wrong way. He screamed and fell. His gravity net clattered to the floor. Una grabbed the net. It was heavy, but her muscles were built for carrying weight. On Earth, humans had carried water and food and children for countless miles. Endurance was in her blood. She swung the net at the fourth hunter. It wrapped around his upper limbs. He struggled against it, but the device activated on impact. The gravity field crushed inward. His arms were pinned to his sides. 3 down. 2 trapped. 1 remaining. The old hunter backed away. His confidence was gone. His eyes were wide with something Una had never seen in them before. Fear. Impossible, he whispered. His translator struggled with the word. It repeated itself. Impossible. Impossible. You are just a what? Una asked. She walked toward him slowly. Her breathing was heavy now. Her shoulder throbbed where the shock bolt had hit. She could feel bruises forming across her body. But she did not stop. Just a small female? Just a weak human? Just easy prey? She was bleeding. The third hunter had managed to cut her forearm with his claws during the struggle. Purple alien blood mixed with red human blood on the floor. But she was still standing. She was still moving. She was still coming. The old hunter raised his shock lance. His claws were shaking now. The weapon trembled in his grip. Stay back, he said. His voice was not commanding anymore. It was pleading. We can make a deal. Money, resources, passage to any system you want. I can give you anything. Una stopped. She looked at him for a long moment. Anything? She asked. Yes, anything. Just let me go. Forget this happened. We will never come back. I swear it. Una thought about his offer. She thought about the others. The hunters who had come before. The humans they had captured. The people who had been sold and caged and displayed like animals. She thought about the humans who might come after her. The next exchange students. The next diplomats. The next travelers. If she let him go, he would come back. Maybe not for her, but for someone else. Someone weaker. Someone less prepared. She could not allow that. I want you to understand something, she said quietly. I did not want this. I came to this academy to learn, to heal, to prove that humans are not monsters. She took a step forward. But you came into my path. You tried to take me. You tried to sell me. You threatened to hurt me. Another step. On my world, she continued, there is a saying. If you hunt something long enough, you become the prey. The old hunter fired his shock lance. It was a desperate shot. Poorly aimed. Una sidestepped it easily. She closed the final distance between them. It was over in seconds. She did not enjoy it. She did not take pleasure in violence. But she was practical. She was efficient. She was a survivor. When it was finished, 6 hunters lay on the floor of the maintenance corridor. None of them were moving. None of them would move again. Una stood in the center of the carnage. Her body was covered in cuts and bruises. Her shoulder ached from the shock bolt. Her hands were shaking from adrenaline. But she was alive. She looked down at the old hunter. His eyes were still open. They no longer held fear. They held nothing at all. You wanted a specimen from a death world, she said softly. Now you understand what that really means. She took a deep breath. Then another. She forced her heart rate to slow down. She forced her muscles to relax. She forced her mind to shift from combat to calculation. The fight was over, but her problems were just beginning. She had 30 minutes before the next patrol came through this corridor. 30 minutes to clean up 6 bodies in all. Evidence that anything had happened here. It would be enough. Una had learned many things at the academy, but she had also brought knowledge from Earth. Knowledge passed down through generations of humans who had to hide what they did to survive. She got to work. Una stood very still. She looked at the 6 bodies on the floor. She looked at the blood, red and purple mixed together. She looked at the weapons scattered around her. Her mind was racing. Not with fear, with calculation. She could not report this. If she reported it, there would be an investigation. Security officers would ask questions. Administrators would get involved. The story would spread. A human killed 6 hunters with her bare hands. A Death Worlder attacked peaceful visitors to the academy. It did not matter that the hunters had attacked first. It did not matter that she was defending herself. The galaxy was afraid of humans. They would believe the worst. Her scholarship would be taken away. She would be sent back to Earth. Worse, all humans might be banned from the academy. Decades of diplomatic work would be destroyed. Every effort to show that humans could be peaceful would be erased. She could not let that happen. She had to make this disappear. Una checked the time on her wrist device. 28 minutes until the next security patrol. Not a lot of time, but enough. She had planned for this. Not this exact situation, but something like it. Every human who traveled to alien space learned certain skills. How to hide, how to clean, how to survive when things went wrong. These were lessons passed down from older travelers. Lessons learned the hard way. Una picked up her bag from the floor. Inside was a standard xenobiology kit. Chemicals for cleaning samples. Tools for collecting specimens. And a small data pad that she used for notes. But it also contained other things. Things she had added herself. Just in case. First problem. The bodies. Una walked to the wall of the corridor. There was a panel there. A maintenance access point. She had noticed it months ago when she first started using this route. Behind the panel was a recycling chute. All stations had them. They led to the protein reclamation system. Organic matter went in. Basic nutrients came out. The process was complete and total. Nothing recognizable remained. The panel required access codes. Una had those too. She had copied them from the maintenance database weeks ago. Not because she planned to kill anyone, but because knowledge was power. And in a galaxy full of creatures stronger and faster than her, knowledge was the only advantage she had. She entered the codes. The panel slid open. A dark chute waited behind it. One by one, Una dragged the bodies to the chute. It was hard work. The hunters were heavy. Their shells scraped against the floor. She had to use all her strength to lift them up and push them through the opening. But humans were built for this kind of work. On Earth, her ancestors had carried loads across mountains. They had dragged prey back to their camps. They had moved stones to build shelters. Endurance was the human specialty. 6 bodies. 6 trips. 12 minutes gone. Second problem. The blood. Red human blood and purple alien blood covered the floor. Splashes on the walls. Drops on the ceiling. A complete mess. Una pulled a bottle from her bag. It was labeled as a cleaning agent for xenobiology samples. In truth, it was a powerful solvent that could break down organic material at the molecular level. Human blood. Alien blood. skin cells, DNA, everything. She sprayed the floor. She sprayed the walls. She wiped every surface with a cloth from her kit. The blood dissolved. The stains faded. In 4 minutes, the corridor looked clean. But looking clean was not enough. Some species could smell blood even after it was washed away. Some sensors could detect organic traces invisible to human eyes. Yuna pulled out another bottle. This one created a masking layer. It covered all remaining traces with a neutral compound. No smell, no traces. Nothing to find. Third problem. The witnesses. Yuna looked up at the security camera in the corner of the corridor. It was old and rarely monitored. That was why she had chosen this route in the first place. But it was still recording. She needed to fix that. Her friend Do Yoon had taught her how. He was another human at the academy. They met in their first month. They had become friends quickly. Humans stuck together in alien spaces. Do Hyun was good with technology. He had shown her how station security systems worked, how to access recorded footage, how to loop old recordings over new events. He called it digital survival skills. Yuna pulled out her datapad. She connected to the station network through a back channel that Do-hyun had set up. She found the security files for this corridor. The last hour of footage. She saved a 5-minute segment from earlier in the day. Just an empty corridor. Nothing happening. Then she copied that segment over the time when the fight occurred. She smoothed the edges so it looked natural. When security reviewed the footage, they would see nothing. Just an empty corridor. All day. All night. Fourth problem. The evidence. The shock lenses. The gravity nets. The communication devices. All of it was still on the floor. Yuna collected everything. She checked each item carefully. The weapons had no tracking devices. The communication units were encrypted but not traced. Standard criminal equipment. Designed to be untraceable. Good. She threw everything down the recycling chute. Metal, plastic, electronics. The protein reclamation system did not care. It would break down everything into base components. By tomorrow morning, the hunters and their equipment would be processed into cafeteria food. The irony was not lost on her. Yuna checked the time. 25 minutes used. 3 minutes left before the patrol. She looked around the corridor one last time. Clean floor. Clean walls. No bodies. No weapons. No evidence. Just an empty maintenance passage and a quiet part of the station. Perfect. Why Yuna picked up her bag. She adjusted her jacket to cover the wound on her arm. She ran her fingers through her hair to make it look normal. She took a deep breath. Then she started walking. By the time the security patrol passed through the corridor, she was long gone. They noticed nothing unusual. The floor was clean. The lights were working again. Everything was normal. In her dormitory room, Yuna sat on her bed. Her hands were shaking again. Not from fear, from the aftermath of stress. The adrenaline was leaving her body. The reality of what she had done was sinking in. She had killed 6 beings, living creatures. She had ended their lives with her bare hands. On Earth, this would have been called self-defense. On Earth, she would have been protected by law. But she was not on Earth. She was alone in the cold space between stars. She was a death worlder among fragile species who already feared her. There was no law that would protect her here. There was no court that would understand. So she had protected herself. In the only way that was available, Yuna looked at her hands. They were clean now. She had washed them 3 times. But she could still feel the impacts. The cracks of shells breaking. The wet sounds of bodies falling. She closed her eyes. She breathed slowly. She reminded herself why she had done it. They would have taken her, sold her, caged her. and then they would have done the same to others. She had stopped that. She had protected not just herself, but every human who would come after her. It was not murder. It was survival, but the weight of it would stay with her for a long time. Yuna lay down on her bed. She stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she would return to class. Tomorrow she would smile and study and pretend nothing had happened. Tomorrow she would be the quiet exchange student again. But tonight, she allowed herself to feel the cost of what she had done just for tonight. Then she would bury it and move on. That was what survivors did. The morning alarm rang through the dormitory halls. Soft tones designed to wake gentle species from their rest. Yuna was already awake. She had slept for maybe 2 hours. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the fight again. The faces of the hunters. The sound of breaking shells. But she pushed those thoughts away. She had practice with this. Humans were good at compartmentalizing. They could lock away terrible memories and still function. It was another survival trait from their violent world. Yuna got out of bed. She stretched carefully. Her body ached everywhere. The shoulder where the shock bolt had hit. The forearm where the claws had cut. The dozens of small bruises from the struggle. Everything hurt, but nothing was broken. Nothing was permanent. She would heal in a few days. She dressed in her usual clothes. Simple and practical. A long-sleeve shirt to hide the bandage on her arm. Pants that allowed easy movement. Flat shoes for balance. Nothing that drew attention. She looked at herself in the mirror. Dark eyes stared back at her. Tired but determined. She practiced her normal expression. The quiet student. The polite visitor. The harmless human who just wanted to learn. Good enough. She picked up her bag and left for morning class. The halls were busy with students. Hundreds of species moving in different directions. Some walked on 2 legs. Some on 4. Some on 6. Some floated through the air on wings or gravity fields. The diversity of life in the galaxy was amazing. Yuna moved through the crowd carefully. She kept her pace slow. She kept her expression neutral. She nodded politely at students who looked her way. No one stared at her more than usual. No one whispered about violence or death. No one suspected anything. Her first class was Galactic History. The instructor talked about ancient trade routes between star systems. Yuna took notes. She asked a question about economic impacts on early colonies. The instructor was pleased with her engagement. Normal. Everything was normal. During the break between classes, Yuna walked to the medical bay. The door slid open as she approached. Inside was bright and clean. Medical equipment hummed softly. A Qulari nurse looked up from her station. She was a thin being with silver skin and kind eyes. She had treated Yuna before. Minor injuries from lab work. The usual human accidents. Hello, the nurse said. What can I do for you today? Yuna held up her arm. Just a small cut, she said. Lab accident yesterday. I wanted to make sure it was healing properly. The nurse examined the wound. She scanned it with a medical device. She applied a fresh bandage with gentle hands. It looks fine, she said. Human healing rates are impressive. This will be fully closed in 2 days. Yuna smiled. Thank you. The nurse shook her head. You Deathworlders, she said. No sense of self-preservation. Always hurting yourselves with reckless behavior. Yuna nodded. She did not correct the assumption. She did not explain what had really caused the wound. She just thanked the nurse again and left. Normal. Still normal. Her second class was xenobiology, her favorite subject. Today, the instructor discussed cellular regeneration in amphibious species. Yuna listened carefully. She answered a question about the relationship between regeneration rates and metabolic activity. The instructor praised her understanding. Next to her sat a Tellurian student named Mary. She was small and nervous, with large dark eyes. She always sat near Yuna. At first, Yuna thought she was brave for sitting next to a Deathworlder. Later, Yuna realized that Miri sat there because she felt safe. The most dangerous thing in any room was usually the human. And the human was her friend. After class, Miri leaned over to whisper, "Did you hear the news?" Yuna kept her face calm. "What news?" "A hunting crew went missing," Miri said. Her voice was hushed with excitement. "Veth, hunters. 6 of them. Their ship is still in the docking bay, but no one can find them anywhere." Yuna made an appropriate expression of concern. "That is strange," she said. "What do people think happened?" Miri shrugged. "No one knows. Some people think they got drunk and had an accident. Maybe fell into a recycling system or something. It happens sometimes." Yuna nodded slowly. "That sounds possible. Others think they ran into something dangerous," Miri continued. "Something they could not handle." Her large eyes grew even larger. "What if there is a monster on the station? Something hiding in the maintenance tunnels?" Yuna almost laughed, but she controlled herself. "I am sure there is a simple explanation," she said. "The station is very safe. Nothing bad could happen here." Mary looked relieved. "You are right. You are probably right." They packed up their things and walked out of the classroom together. Mary talked about her homework and her struggles with alien chemistry. Yuna listened and offered advice. Normal. Completely normal. That evening, Yuna sat in her dormitory room. The stars shone through her window. Millions of points of light in the darkness. Each one a sun. Many of them surrounded by planets. Billions of species living their lives across the galaxy. Her communication device buzzed. A message from Do-hyun. She opened it. Heard about the missing Veth. "You okay?" Yuna typed back. "Fine. Quiet night. Studied, slept, nothing interesting." A pause. Then Do-hyun replied, "Good. Stay safe out there." Yuna set down the device. She wondered if Do-hyun suspected anything. Probably not. But he was smart, and he knew what humans were capable of. She looked out at the stars again. She thought about the galaxy and its fear of her species. She thought about the hunters who had underestimated a small human female. She thought about the diplomats and scientists and students who were trying to show that humans could be peaceful. She was one of them. She wanted peace. She wanted understanding. She wanted a future where humans were accepted as members of the galactic community. But she also understood the truth. Peace required strength. Understanding required survival. If humans showed only weakness, they would be hunted, captured, sold, displayed in cages like animals. Sometimes, being accepted meant showing what would happen if you were attacked. The Veth had learned that lesson. Their disappearance would become a mystery, a story told in whispers. Hunters who went after a human and never came back. Maybe other predators would hear the story. Maybe they would think twice before targeting a Deathworlder. Maybe they would choose easier prey, or maybe not. Humans were still valuable targets. The hunters would keep coming, and Yuna would be ready for them. She had learned something about herself in that maintenance corridor. She had always thought of herself as a healer, a student, a diplomat, someone who wanted to help others, but she was also a survivor, a fighter, a creature forged by millions of years of evolution on the most dangerous planet in the known galaxy. She could be both things. The gentle student in the classroom, the deadly predator in the shadows. Both were true. Both were necessary. Yuna looked at her reflection in the window. The stars shone through her face like scattered light. She smiled. Tomorrow she would go to class. She would study. She would take notes and ask questions and pretend to be harmless. She would be the quiet exchange student that everyone overlooked. But now she knew the truth about herself, and that knowledge gave her strength. The galaxy was vast and dangerous. Creatures with claws and fangs and weapons prowled in the darkness between worlds. They hunted the weak. They preyed on the vulnerable. They thought humans were easy targets. They were wrong. Humans were not prey. They were not victims. They were survivors. They had crawled out of the mud and conquered a world that wanted them dead. They had spread across their planet and into the stars, and now one of them sat in a dormitory room on a station between worlds. A small female with dark hair and tired eyes. A student who wanted to learn and heal and help, but also something more. A Kali, death worlder, a survivor, a human. And she would do whatever it took to stay alive. The stars kept shining. The station kept spinning. Life continued, and somewhere in the protein reclamation tanks, tomorrow's cafeteria food slowly processed. Yuna allowed herself a small, grim smile. Then she closed her eyes and finally slept. Tomorrow would be another day, and she would be ready for it.